In our growing spaces, whether they're gardens, greenhouses, or homes, we work hard to make a beautiful environment for plants and for people. However, pests and diseases frequently make themselves our unwelcome guests. Because of this, pest management is a critical part of the work that goes into maintaining both outdoor and indoor gardens. In this first portion of the Introduction to Integrated Pest Management, we'll discuss the factors that make pest management a complex problem and how the practice of integrated pest management offers a comprehensive solution. Now, pest is a generic term for many of the problems that bother us in our gardens and on our farms. By pest, I mean any of a number of insects, weeds, mites, diseases, or other organisms that harm our plants. Here you see pictured a plant disease caused by a fungus, powdery mildew, another one on cucumbers, which is caused by a virus. You see the common weed, yellow nutsedge, an insect pest that harms many houseplants called mealybug, and finally spider mites, which are another common houseplant pest. If your parents or grandparents were farmers, you may have heard their stories about the hard work they did in the fields and what they accomplished without the aid of so many modern conveniences. Farmers and gardeners of the past were clearly successful at raising crops. Were there actually fewer pest problems back then? How did they manage? Well, the first part of the answer may just be that they didn't. In most cases, they put up with lower yields due to pest damage and with spots and blemishes on their produce. A spot on an apple would be cut out, but the rest of that fruit could still be used for eating or processing. Since then, personal tolerances for pests and pest damage have changed considerably. Consumer expectations for perfect and unblemished produce put pressure on farmers and gardeners to eliminate pests that were once tolerated as just part of farming. Considering the vast diversity of life on Earth, it's truly remarkable that there are really so few pest species. If we just look at insects, there are roughly 1 million described species. Of these, only about 1% are considered pests. Sadly, these are the ones that we're most familiar with, because they feed on our heirloom tomatoes, cause injury to our prize rosebush, or transmit diseases. We really rarely think about these insects, except when they bother us. Still, there have been changes to both our farming systems and our natural environment that contribute to our current pest problems. For example, compare a natural system such as a woodland to a man-made suburban lot. Natural systems are diverse and enduring. They are comprised of a variety of species in complex layers that have adapted together to be self-sustaining. If they weren't, they wouldn't still be around. On the other hand, we want to maximize our benefit from a field of corn or tomatoes or a smooth green lawn, so we simplify the number of species and the way they are arranged. However, although monocultures of a single crop are easier to cultivate, they also mean plenty of food is available for the pests that prefer them. Man-made systems require intervention and additional inputs to maintain them. Simplified systems are less resilient and have less tolerance for problems when they occur. Modern, high-yielding plant varieties can be less competitive with weeds, or may be grown closer together in ways that encourage the spread of diseases. So we actually have ourselves to blame somewhat for much of the increase in pest problems. By creating simplified landscapes where we expect perfection and pristine conditions, we not only increase the pest pressure, but we also raise our own standards to somewhat unattainable heights. Another factor that contributes to the simplification of systems is pesticide use itself. Over time, pesticides can increase the damage done by the pest population by selecting for resistance and by eliminating their natural enemies. Pesticides are basically poisons that work in a variety of ways, as nerve toxins, by inhibiting the action of mitochondria in cells, or by confusing the pest's natural growth pattern. Although chemical pest controls are effective, they will never eliminate 100% of the pest population. Some pests will naturally be more susceptible than others to the effects of the pesticide. However, the ones that survive will pass on those survival traits to their children. Over generations, more and more individuals are born with those resistant traits, until eventually the entire population becomes resistant to that particular pesticide's mode of action. Most pests have a relatively brief generation time, sometimes as short as a few weeks. So resistance in a population can build up quickly. Additionally, pesticides, particularly insecticides and miticides, may not be too discriminating when it comes to what organisms they kill. In complex natural systems, pests should encounter other organisms that either compete with or prey on them. These include tiny parasitic wasps that lay their eggs in aphids, ladybug beetles and their larvae that consume enormous quantities of plant pests, predatory mites that stalk their prey across the leaf surface, dragonflies that swoop down on mosquitoes in midair, and many others. If pesticides also kill off these natural pest controls, then when the pests come back, and you know they will, they'll have an even easier time of it than before. Finally, in some cases we do see more pest species than we once did. International travel and the global economy have allowed people, plants, and pests to move across borders and into places where they were once unknown. Exotic species may make themselves pleasantly at home in ecosystems that are unprepared to check them with a natural balance of competitors and predators. Some current examples include weeds like garlic mustard and spotted knapweed that made their way to North America from Eurasia and are thriving and outcompeting native species. There are also well-known exotic insect pests like the Japanese beetle and the emerald ash borer, as well as previously unknown diseases like impatiens downy mildew for North American gardeners to cope with. Clearly, pest management is a problem with many contributing factors, including reduced tolerance for damage, simplified systems, and enhanced movement of pest species. There are a lot of things working against us, and pesticides alone are too simplistic a solution. Their use has even contributed to the problem. In response, the decision-making process known as Integrated Pest Management, or IPM, has been developed as a more comprehensive solution for this complex problem. IPM programs recognize that there are a variety of pest management strategies that can be used to prevent economically damaging pest outbreaks, while reducing risks to human health and the environment. If this sounds a bit too formal for your own little garden patch, don't worry. While most IPM guides are written for commercial growers, these priorities apply for homeowners as well. In fact, I bet you already use the same considerations about cost, health, and the environment to make decisions for your own home and garden.